Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 208. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards, a filmmaker whose work focuses on social justice, a graduate of Brown University, and an advocate for marginalized communities. Welcome, St Clair Detrick-Jules.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Fill in the gaps. Why don't you share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Sure. So I grew up in Washington, D.C. My dad is Afro-Caribbean, my mom American. And so I grew up, in a very diverse neighborhood in Washington, D.C. When I got to college, that's when I really started appreciating my neighborhood back in DC, because my college, not as diverse, not as many people of color, not as many different groups. And so I realized that I was actually really lucky to have grown up in such a diverse place with so many different communities. And so when I, got back to DC for the summers, that's when I started sort of getting into film and photography, interviewing people about sort of their experiences, different groups. And so now I do documentary and photography in general, just I would say under the umbrella of storytelling.
Did you major in filmmaking in college, film?
I didn't. I actually only took one filmmaking class in college, and I majored in French and Francophone studies. So a little unrelated, but I found that even in the French and Francophone studies major, there was focus on sort of colonization. And, we learned about some countries that had been colonized by France in the Caribbean and Africa. And so, I think that actually helped me understand, social justice issues on a more global scale.
And talk about your work around social justice, and especially in the times we are now, and share with us how you're feeling and what's your take.
Yes. I think there have always been issues in this country and globally. And I think now things are just sort of being exposed a bit more. But yeah, there's so many things going on that have been going on for decades. Immigration, for example, there are a lot of immigrants in DC. And so I've heard a lot of their stories and the issues going on with ICE, with Homeland Security, and what has happened really in the last maybe 15 years. Could be wrong about that. But I feel like maybe the last 20 years, but things have really ramped up in terms of targeting immigrants, targeting undocumented immigrants, border quote unquote security. So I think, that's one thing that I'm interested in, and that I want to tell these people's stories. And then there's also, U.S. foreign policy, which has also been horrendous for a long time. And I think that sometimes the things we do in other countries actually destabilizes those countries. And then we end up with more immigrants needing to come to this country because, now their home countries are destroyed. And then also in terms of what's going on with the Black Lives Matter protests, I'm really happy to see that a lot of people are finally sort of realizing what Black people go through. And I hope that it's not just a phase. I hope that it lasts. And I hope that we also, get to an understanding that it is policing, and it's also every other part of the system. It's why Black mothers are 2 to 3 times more likely to die during childbirth than mothers of other races, and so there's so many issues. And then hair, I think, is actually one of those issues, and it might seem, I think sometimes we don't think of hair as being as important compared to the other things that are happening in the Black community. But really, when you look at the amount of money that Black women are, conditioned to believe that they have to spend, quote unquote, taming their hair, straightening their hair, perming their hair, whatever, just in order to have the same educational opportunities, the same employment opportunities, just the same general respect in society. I think it is an important piece of the conversation. And so there's legislation going around now, like the Crown Act, which I really hope gets passed and all, on a national level, because it's important, and, no one should be discriminated against because of their hair.
Speaking of hair, you have a project surrounding hair. Would you share?
Yeah, so I have an upcoming photojournalism book coming out next fall, so fall 2021. And it features 101 Black women of all different hair textures embracing their natural hair. And along with each woman's photos, I interviewed them and transcribed their stories relating to their natural hair. And they have all kinds of stories, stories of the quote unquote, the big chop, some stories of discrimination in school and the workplace, but how they overcame that, embrace their natural hair in spite of that. And so all these different stories, and it's dedicated to and inspired by my little sister, Chloe, who is very self-conscious about her afro, was made fun of her afro in school. And so this project is sort of a response to that, and also just a response to every little Black girl who doesn't like her natural hair.
St. Clair, what problem exists in the world today that you would like to solve?
I feel like there's so many questions, or so many problems in the world. I think one thing, probably economic inequality, especially being in the United States, you really see it, but across the globe, I think we have enough resources for everybody, and there's no reason why some people should not have food or not have shelter. There's more than enough for everybody. So I think that's one thing that in an ideal world, I would like to solve.
Tell us what you are most grateful for right now in your life.
I'm really grateful for my health. Grateful for my health, for the health of my family, especially with COVID going on. I think it's really important to realize that life isn't guaranteed, and we always have to be grateful for life, for having health. And I'm also grateful for my family, and to have a really loving family. I feel really blessed, and I know that not everybody has that privilege, so I definitely don't take it for granted.
Speaking of COVID-19 and economics, share the impact or the pivot that you had to make in your business regarding COVID-19.
Yeah, so I was going to self-publish my photojournalism book on Black hair. I was going to self-publish it this past May 2020, but that was right when coronavirus was getting worse. It was, going to peak at least in my city, Washington, D.C. And so I decided that because I wasn't going to be able to do any release parties, I wasn't going to be able to, go to any bookstores. And so I decided instead to postpone the release. And then I was able to find an agent and a traditional publisher. And so now it'll be published, in a traditional way in fall of 2021. And I'm really excited about that. And I am happy to be going the traditional route. So I guess it's a good thing that COVID-19 sort of pushed me in that direction.
Talk about going the traditional route of getting your book published, and what advice would you give someone if they are seeking advice on going that direction?
So I would say for the traditional route, one, get an agent. And so I, constantly online looking for agents who, I spent months doing this, looking for agents who I thought would like my book. I bought books about agents, just with lists of agents, so that I would, based on, my own experience, I would say first get an agent to help guide you through the process. And the agent is the one who will reach out traditional publishers generally. And so once I found my agent, she was able to reach out to editors from different publishing companies and find a match for my book. And yeah, so I would say, and actually in that process of getting together my query for my agent, getting together then the proposal for the publisher. That all, it was a lot of work, but it actually really helped me consider in more detail what exactly is my book about, who is the targeted audience, what are my goals for the book, that kind of thing. And so, so that's what I would say for the traditional route. I know that there are smaller independent publishers who don't require an agent. You can just reach out to them directly. There's multiple options. And then there's always this, the self-publishing route.
St. Clair, what was that aha moment that you knew that your business was going to be successful?
Let's see. I guess, I don't know if it was a moment or just rather like with my book, just hearing so much positive feedback about it. And I made a little trailer for it because I had filmed all of my interviews as well. So I made a little trailer. And I would say, getting all the positive feedback, and even from people who aren't Black women, I got very positive feedback from them as well. There was this, there was this one white man who I had met at a film festival, and he just said that he was really impressed with the project and that he really loved the idea behind it and that he wanted to learn from it. And so that helped me, I think, understand that this can go beyond, while of course always centering Black women, and in this case, Black women with natural hair, but sort of, I think, the lessons and the advice that these women have to offer about self-love, about community, about confidence, I think that people of all, anybody can learn from them, I think.
What can we do right now to support your business?
So you can sign up for the newsletter it should be www.dearchloe.com. So DEARKHLOE.com. And I'm going to send out updates about the publishing process and when the book is available for pre-order. And then when the book comes out, I'll update everybody about the events that are going to be happening then. And so you can go to dearchloe.com and sign up for the newsletter.
Share a business or brand that is dominating that you admire and why.
That's a good question. A brand that I'm admiring, with their own innovative ideas of selling anything from jewelry to, I have a friend who actually participated in my book, and she's doing this really cool jewelry with shells and different kinds of beads, and selling them on Etsy. And I think that's really incredible. And I really love just seeing other people do art. I think art is so important. And I wish that everybody, had the time and access to do art, because I think it's very healing. And so I love when people are able to turn their art into a business and spend more time doing their passions, doing what they love. So
advice you wish you had followed.
Advice. I think I wish that I would have, my mom always says, everything will work out, don't worry, don't stress. And I think that I do stress too much. And so I think that one thing that, this whole book process has taught me is that everything really does work out at the end. And so I think that if I could go back, I wish that I had followed my mom's advice and just have believed in myself from the beginning that everything was going to work out just how I wanted it, just to avoid all the stress, all the unnecessary stress.
Talk to a younger St. Clair. What advice would you give to a younger St. Clair?
I think I would tell my younger self that her Blackness is beautiful and she doesn't need to be ashamed of her skin color or her features or her hair, because my younger self went through so many years of really self-hatred, of really lack of confidence, stemming from her Blackness, but that then extended into other parts of her life as well. And so, if I had a good sit-down talk with my younger self, I would probably, want to tell her a little bit about her history as a Black woman and make her understand how proud she should be of that.
When it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered, St. Clair? Talk about your legacy.
I would like to be remembered as someone who was kind and uplifting to others. And I think that sometimes when we talk about kindness, it's a bit superficial. It's like, oh, did you say please and thank you? But I want to be remembered as someone who was kind to everybody and who loved people enough to stand up for them when there were injustices going on. I don't think being kind means that you can never speak out against injustices or get into arguments with people. I think to me it means more loving people enough that you are willing to fight for them and their rights and their joy.
If someone spent a day with you, what would we learn about you that we don't know that we should know?
I guess they would probably see, they'd probably see me working a little bit on film, a little bit on photography. They would see sort of maybe some of the inner workings of my mind with my OCD, for example, with my work, and also in terms of, right now, for example, with COVID, I've been really paranoid about everything. Yeah, I don't know. I think they might see less structure than expected. I feel like I'm not, I tutor, but besides that, my days aren't too structured, and so that might be a surprise.
Is there a social cause tied to your business?
I would say right now the intersection of race and gender, for sure.
Let's talk about the worst moment in life or business. Share that story and what was your takeaway?
So you said life or business?
Correct.
So probably my worst moment in life was when my mom was diagnosed with colon cancer my senior year of college, and that was a really, really difficult semester for me. That was the semester that I was taking a film class, and so there were, some positives, things that I was enjoying and really learning about my craft, but it was also, I would say, just a time of uncertainty. And so that was, in the moment, it was really hard. Now we look back at it and sort of see it as a blessing. And there are lessons that my mom got from that experience. And, but again, sort of, I think that one thing I need to work on is just having faith, believing that everything will work out in the end. And in hindsight, I wish I could tell myself, everything is going to be okay. She'll be fine. Just don't stress out that much,
St. Clair, what book would you recommend and why?
I think I would recommend, I guess, I'm trying to think. There's so many books that I read, and along with my students, we always read such a wide range of books. One book that I've started reading is Elizabeth Acevedo's The Poet X. I really admire her as an author, and she was actually one of the first poets who I heard perform a piece about natural hair as well. And then I'm also planning on reading her more recent book, Clap When You Land. So I would recommend her books for sure.
What are your goals for your brand or your business?
My goals would be to be, basically, I want just to be able to fully rely on my craft, on my art, for that to be sort of, I guess, sufficient. That would be my goal. And so I, do want to have more events, when things go back to normal. I want to meet up with people. I want to connect with more people, and I want to keep expanding. And I would say in terms of my business, in terms of my documentaries and my photography, I definitely want there to be a focus on social justice.
What do you need right now that you don't have for you to level up, to move to the next level for your business?
I guess I would say a large social media platform.
Give us one word that describes St. Clair.
Loving.
Talk about your top 2 influencers and what lessons did they teach you?
Let's see. Well, there's Whitney White, who, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she is sort of, as she calls herself, the OG natural hair vlogger. And she's inspired so many Black women, when in a time before YouTube was really huge, before there were all these tutorials for natural hair, Whitney White was really one of the first people showing, natural hair tutorials, teaching Black women how to take care of their natural hair, because it's something that a lot of us don't know. So I really admire her. And then, let's see, another influencer who I admire. I really admire Slay West. She's a model and an influencer on social media. And I was actually lucky enough to get her in my book. She is, I believe she's, 12 now. And she has always had this huge afro. She started modeling when she was maybe like 4 or 5. She's had this huge afro, and she's always loved her natural hair. And so I think that that's really inspiring and gives me hope that the next generation of Black girls, may never have to go through a phase of feeling doubt because of their looks.
Talk about self-care. What does self-care look like for St. Clair?
I think for one, sleep, definitely. Surrounding myself with people who love me and who support me. That is really incredibly important to me. You know how they say, you are a combination of the 5 people who you're around the most. And so I think that's really important to me, surrounding myself with people who I aspire to be like. So that's, I think, a form of self-care. And if people aren't treating you right, regardless of if that's a friendship, a relationship, in academia, whatever it is, separate. I always try to distance myself from people who don't fully support me, don't fully love me, and are not bringing me joy, I guess. And I think also, I've been trying to go on more walks now. Getting outside in nature, I think, is an important piece of self-care as well, especially living in a city. It's important to get that natural air.
What is the hope for your generation?
I hope that my generation, I feel like I'm right on the cusp of, right between being millennial and Gen Z. But I think, I hope that, my generation, I hope that we have more empathy for one another. I think that sometimes I see things that are a bit scary. People with the idea that, everybody doesn't deserve healthcare, or that, kids in school shouldn't get school lunch if their parents don't pay, like that kind of thing. I think that some people have lost sort of their empathy for other human beings. And so my hope for my generation, first and foremost, is that we find that empathy together as a generation.
St. Clair, how do you feel about the person you have become?
I feel positive about her. I think that this is definitely not, never where I expected myself to end up. But I'm proud of myself for, sort of coming up with my own independent journey. Because up until college, middle school and high school, I had everything so set in stone. I would say I followed a really traditional route in terms of my education. And my focus was always, having like a solid career, having a solid path, as opposed to finding something that really brings me joy. And so I'm happy with myself for pursuing my passions.
Talk about that moment when you had that shift to go after your passion versus the corporate or the traditional route.
So I got really into filmmaking, or I started liking the idea of it sort of in the beginning of my college career. And I actually had, but I'd heard that it's really hard to get into, that it's really competitive. So I was feeling kind of down about that. But then I spoke with my best friend's mom, who is, I guess you could say she's a motivational speaker. And she really helped me understand that anything is possible, that all of your dreams can come true. You just have to have faith in yourself, But if someone else can do it, why can't you do it too, That was a really big light bulb moment, I think, of her showing me that I can achieve my dreams.
How did you finance your business, St. Clair?
From my tutoring job. So I work at a tutoring company. We do private tutoring in small classes. And so it's nice because I'm just there part-time. With that money, I'm able to, for example, I was able to purchase all of the self-published copies of my book, that kind of thing.
And what do you do when you hit a bump in the road? How do you reset and adjust?
I talk to my loved ones. I talk to my family. I talk to my mom, talk to my husband, talk to my therapist. Talking through things really helps me. And also, I try to listen to meditation music. I try to watch motivational speakers. There are a lot of people like Oprah, like, Denzel Washington, just a lot of really successful people who talk about manifesting and visualization. And so that also, I think, helps me, is looking at people who have succeeded and just affirming myself, okay, if they can do it, so can I.
What is the biggest challenge that you have faced being an entrepreneur?
Let's see. I think just sort of probably learning the ropes of everything on my own. So when I did my first film on DACA recipients, on undocumented youth, that whole process going through the film festival circuit and everything, I was figuring it all out on my own, that was really difficult. And then with the book that I have now, also really difficult figuring out just how to go through the whole process of formatting a book, of, getting an agent, of getting a publisher. I mean, luckily now with the internet, everything is easily accessible. But I think, it's just challenging, the internet. It's great because there's so much stuff on there, but it's also difficult because there's so much stuff on there to sort of weed through. And so I think figuring out all of that on my own has been definitely a challenge.
What is your biggest achievement so far in business?
I would say this book deal that I have for sure. Yeah, I think I am really proud of myself for getting an agent and for getting a publisher. That's a huge blessing. I'm really grateful for that.
St. Clair, what is your best discovery?
My best discovery, I think maybe the discovery of the power that I hold within myself and the power that we all hold within ourselves. I saw something the other day that said, inside of all of us, there's a well of untapped potential. And so I think that realizing that everybody, including myself, we all have the power within us to achieve our dreams is a really important discovery for me, without which I don't think I would have gone after any of my dreams.
Speaking of dreams, what have you not done in life that you dream about often?
I would like to, right now I do photography and documentaries, but I would like to also one day write a screenplay and direct a narrative film. And I have ideas in mind, and I would really like to do that. That is a huge dream of mine.
What can you do daily better?
I think probably not be on social media so much. I think technology is really addicting, so I think I could definitely cut back on that. I think that would be my biggest thing, and that would open up more time for me to work on my craft.
Speaking of technology, what is a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must-have in managing your business day to day?
I would say, well, I guess for a lot of people it would be their smartphones. For me, I would probably say my desktop computer, because that's where I can edit, promotional materials. That's where I can edit little videos. That's where I can edit photos. And of course, I can also get on social media like Facebook and stuff through my computer and manage my website. So I would say my computer.
What is your favorite quote or saying and why?
Okay, so I think it was Harrison Ford who said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. And I think that speaks to the power of our own beliefs. So I really like that quote.
What is one valuable lesson you wish you had learned before starting your business?
I guess I wish that I would have had more lessons in financial literacy.
What, if anything, keeps you up at night?
I guess, and this is something I'm working on, but I think that I have a lot of fear and uncertainty over the future, and so I think that sometimes keeps me up at night, that sort of uncertainty. And so I'm working towards being more certain in myself and believing in myself more.
Talk about work-life effectiveness and how do you make it happen in your business?
Yeah, so I think, and that is one thing that I want to work on, is sometimes I think that I don't give myself enough time to relax and rest. And I think that's something that I definitely want to, work on, giving myself set time during the day where I'm going to work. And then, if once that time is over, then I go do something else, then I go rest, I go take a walk, I go have a picnic. Yeah.
What is working well now in your business?
I think, well, for one, I think the timing of it, especially now, I think the natural hair movement is sort of, is growing a lot. A lot of people are talking about it. The Crown Act, is being passed in several states prohibiting discrimination against natural hair or other Afrocentric hairstyles in the workplace, at school, in public. And so I think the timing, I think it's good timing. There's sort of a positive shift in that direction.
What drives you every day to continue doing what you do?
I think my desire for a better world, and also my desire to make sure that people are heard and have a voice. My mom is actually a writing professor, and so she focuses on that a lot with her students, making sure her students understand that they all have a story to tell and that each and every one of their voices is powerful and they can express themselves through writing. And so that's what I want to do with my work too, is I want everybody to know that their story is valuable and valued.
Talk about the person in your childhood or your lineage that inspired you.
Definitely my mom. Definitely, I think my mom really instilled in me from a young age, one, empathy. We should never lose sight of our empathy for other human beings, regardless of what's going on. It's really important. And she, to this day, inspires me, just with her willingness to help other people. Of course, she has boundaries, but really just how much she loves others and helps others is really inspiring to me. And also the fact that she, has a career doing something she loves. She's a writing professor. She loves writing. She loves her students. And so that always inspired me to do something that I loved as well.
Looking back, St. Clair, what are you most proud of?
It's kind of a difficult question, but I think I would actually be most proud of, I had really bad OCD and anxiety, and I still have OCD and anxiety, but I think that I've really managed to handle it, because before I think it really affected some of my relationship, like romantic and otherwise. And so I think that I'm really proud of myself for continuing to work through that and for getting a lot better in that area.
Can you tell us one of the most vital, life-changing pieces of advice that you could possibly share with our audience?
I would say food. That's one thing that my mom and I changed in our diets when she was diagnosed with cancer, is we completely changed our diets. And there are so many people who have changed their life through diet. And so I think, eating healthy is really important. And I know that that's tricky because obviously not everybody has access all the time to healthy food. But I think whenever possible, non-processed foods, plant-based foods, or, whatever, everybody's body is different. So whatever works for your body, but just making sure that you're listening to your body and feeding it what it's asking for. If you notice every time after you eat a bunch of sugar, you feel bad, maybe don't, or at least for me, that's something I don't do anymore because it made my body feel bad.
Share your healthy meal. What is your best favorite healthy meal?
One thing I love, Buddha bowls. So, you can put like potatoes, quinoa, some sort of, ancient grains that indigenous people used to eat a lot and still do. Like lettuce or spinach or some kind of greens, that kind of thing, just sort of mixing together some healthy foods. It's actually really good. So that would be my ideal meal, maybe with some olive oil.
St. Clair, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I'd like you to ask the question and answer it.
I think I might ask myself, let's see, I guess, what are sort of your next steps in terms of your art? And I think that I would ask myself that because it's a difficult question for me to answer. But I would say to just continue working on storytelling and working with marginalized communities and telling stories. I have lots of ideas of things that I want to do. At some point, I really want to sort of document my own heritage on both my mother's and my father's side and sort of learn more about my family on both sides. And so that's something that would be more introspective and something that I want to do in the future as well.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called the Fun Facts Lightning Round. I will ask you a series of questions. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
Yes.
The last movie you saw?
Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. I think the last movie I saw was Transcendence.
You relax doing what?
Taking a bath.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Lupe Fiasco.
Your favorite dance song?
Cupid Shuffle.
What food you eat every week no matter what?
Apples.
Your favorite month?
April.
Work out or hit the couch?
Hit the couch.
Your first job?
The NIH.
St. Clair, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you, and feel free to give all your social media handles.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so people can, I mentioned this before, but people can go to dearchloe.com, DearKhloe, for updates about my book that's going to be coming out in fall 2021. People can go to my website, sdjcinema.com, to learn more about my other projects as well. That's my personal website. And on both of those websites, I have my email address, so people can always feel free to email me there. My Instagram is St Clair Detrick-Jules, all one word, so StClairDetrickJules. And then my Instagram page for Dear Chloe is DEAR_KHLOE. So people can connect with me on all of those platforms. I would love to hear from you.
Thank you, St. Clair. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.